welcome back to the What's Next podcast. Coming to you from beautiful Monterey, California. Like always, brought to you by Live Well Therapeutic Massage. And we had an absolutely super day today. Run around in the convertible. Had to be close to 90, maybe mid-80s, I don't know. Just an amazing day. We've got an amazing guest for you today, Miss Myralee. How are you?
I'm doing well, Steve.
Very good.
Good to see you,
Yeah.
always.
We have the longest conversations while we're doing massage. While I'm doing a massage, and
Yeah, he brings out the conversation.
right.
Definitely.
I'm supposed to be quiet, but I can't. I get interesting people like you, and what can I do?
Yeah.
Tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
Not too far from here.
Oh, okay. You're a Cali girl.
Native California,
Okay.
Fresno, California. Back when Fresno was a pretty, safe, wonderful, demographically cross-section of America. And I still, there are parts of it that I like. But yeah, I'm a native Californian.
Great memories. I don't know if I've been to Fresno, maybe through there. I've been to a lot of little cities, but I haven't been to that one.
People have said that.
Yeah, right.
The Queen of England, I believe, went through Fresno on her way to Yosemite.
Have mercy. It's just made royalty.
Well, there's no other way to get to Yosemite. You've got to, land your airplane at Fresno Airport type thing. But,
right. Well, we've talked a lot about your profession, that you really aren't really looking forward to doing that too much more. We've talked a lot about like doing radio and TV and all your passions. And tell me what's going on in your life. What are you doing right now for a living?
Exactly. Well, I may be dating myself, but I remember a book called "What Color Is Your Parachute?" And I think I'm going to have to reread that one because I've done so many different things. And now I'm semi-retired. Okay. But the one that filled my cup the most was broadcasting. Really? And I sort of fell into it. It was nothing that I ever had to really, I'm embarrassed to say, had to work at. It just, now is when you're going to ask me how that all happened.
How did that happen?
So I was living and working in San Luis Obispo and wanting to actually start singing. Okay. So I put my name up on a board, and that's how you did it back then. And got a couple of phone calls, and before you knew it, we were called the Lucky Dogs. And we sang in a club in, what was it called? Joshua Tree
that's
Inn or
huge.
something. And where is that place? We were talking Jimmy Dean, Paso Robles. Yeah. From there, though, there still is a public station called, the call letters are KCBX. If you're listening, I did get it right. And it is the local NPR affiliate. One day I was just doing a remote there with the band that I had formed called Avanti. And there were several of us. We kind of did a live remote. And I don't know if I told you this before, but this is true. I'm not making this up. The gal that was voicing and producing the community calendar got a gig in Disneyland as Snow White. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Snow White or public radio? Right. So she decided to do the former, and they had no one to do it. And I said, well, okay, well, I'll voice it if you just have me sit down with an engineer and let me just see what's going on here.
Like, put me in, coach.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I was, the engineer was producing it and would post-produce, put the music bed on. And I voiced it, and he would weave his magic and put it together. And finally, as I'm sitting behind the mixer, about 2 or 3 sessions into it, I said, I think I can do this. And so that was my professional experience, or, the education behind it.
Sure.
And so pretty soon I took the old music bed off and put something jazzy on underneath there, and folks liked it. And so then from there I got my own jazz show, which aired on Monday nights, which was a lot of fun. In fact, my older brother, who is in Santa Barbara, he does tours and things. He was talking with Frank Lanzone, who still is the general manager. And he said, well, you may know my sister. Her name is Myra Eccles. No, he says, that's your sister? Oh my gosh, I remember paying her $1.75 an hour to retain her as a talent on the station. So I was pretty flattered about that. From there, took that prowess and, well, the first time it gets confusing. I went up to San Francisco to sing and was mostly doing that. But I came back to Monterey, went to the fair, the Monterey Fair, and you may know him, Mark Carbonaro.
Sounds familiar.
Mark Carbonaro. He was producing and production director at, well, let me get my call letters right on this one too. KOCN, which is K-Ocean now, but they were over by the cannery. You want to talk about bleeding through.
Right.
There was a Japanese restaurant right next door, so you had your fill of.
Oh, I see.
You had your fill of sushi and sake.
Yeah. It's the smell.
Yeah, but it was a good smell, right?
Yeah.
So was working there, doing the community calendar and producing, and thought, what the heck? This time I'll send it again, and it was for KJAZ.
Yeah.
Up in San Francisco. This time I put a 8x10 headshot
Glossy
in there. Yeah.
Right?
And I got a call from the Tim, I forget your last name, buddy, program director, and went back up there and worked at KBLX and KJAZ.
Turning records or doing production or what were you doing?
On-air announcing.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
How fun.
Oh, and it was fun too because KJAZ was radio stations back then were sold so often. They were a tax write-off or privately owned.
I see, right.
And so this was a gentleman who was quite wealthy in Alameda, is where the station was at. So there was a heliport as out the front window, 2 turntables, DVDs were coming about, or CDs at that time, a whole wall, 3-4 walls covered in vinyl, classic, one-of-a-kind albums.
Oh, my dream.
Or Keep News had some of these people who had produced some things had offered, to donate them to the radio station. So it was a studio like I'd never been exposed to before. It was incredible. So I used to kind of look around and think, okay, this is it. Can't get much better.
Yeah, right.
It was so much fun. Did that for a couple of years.
Mostly jazz, or what were you?
Yeah. KJAZ was all jazz.
Okay, right.
And but I mean, it was eclectic. Some people would have a particular show. We did Latin jazz as well. But it, dinner jazz would kind of be a little more Antonio Carlos Jobim.
I was just listening to some Coltrane and some
all the
Hartman
time, whatever
and,
you
just
wanted.
listened to that yesterday. I dig into I don't know much about jazz, but anytime I see jazz or a nice album, something that grabs me, and because I'm always in the antique stores looking for old albums. But I always like to, just kind of educate myself a little bit on jazz. It's so neat.
The best educated comment you can make is, I don't know much about it, but I know what I like.
Yeah, right.
It's just like any kind of music. There's good and bad, right?
Yeah,
it's sort of that kind of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, I got hooked on jazz. I think I had a migraine headache, and I was a youngster in my room, just kind of pulled the shades, and my older brother across our rooms were adjacent, had Miles on.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
What's that?
What is this? And I crawled up onto the desk because the air vent was up on top so that I could hear just a little bit more. And from that moment on, I think I was probably 12 years old, I was hooked on that. I knew there was something out there, but this kid from Fresno was not hearing it, He was
killing it.
Yeah, I just knew I would love it.
Yeah, right.
So that's pretty much the from there, went back to Fresno, had a child, and I wanted to continue working in broadcasting. They wanted to give me overnights, and I was still nursing a little baby.
With a baby,
so
right.
It just didn't work that one out too well.
Right.
But, I do want to get back into it, and I do love editing and producing. I love it.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that if I had this prowess to do it analog wise, that what's keeping me from doing it digitally.
Yeah.
So,
well,
see.
maybe the internet's the way to go. Maybe start your own podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe start your own broadcast.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you want to do. You know, it's wide open nowadays. You don't have to be stuck to a radio or a TV anymore. You really can put out your own Myra's Jazz Hour. You know, it might go.
Tell me what you think.
Tell me what you think.
Well, this is true. I mean, there.
In your late night hour or whatever, you know, do some real cool stuff.
We were talking about it.
Yeah.
Getting all the equipment and working out of our home.
Sure.
That kind of thing. But again, that did not happen. But what is her name? Talila and there's
Delilah?
Another gal. Is that the name? Delilah, and then there's another gal. And they just produce, I believe, they just do the voiceover and the back announcing.
Sure, right.
And that's all they do.
They take letters and type of stuff.
They
and
pretend
read
like
CDs or whatever.
Yeah.
Or emails.
Well, yeah, they pretend like they're getting requests,
right.
but it's not really like that. I remember that too. On KBLX, a gal would, "Hi, what you doing?" "Well, I'm running a radio show right now. What do you
What do you want?
Just a minute. Can I put you on hold while I cue this up?" And, you know, they would, "Well, can you send this one out to my boyfriend?" Sure. And then I'd look on the playlist to see if there was anything remotely that would...
Yeah, anything by Billy Joel or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
And they think you're just there spinning records, waiting for them to call. So,
back in the early 70s, I'd get home from middle school or whatever, and my brother would be like, "Call the radio station and just keep calling and just keep telling them to play, what was it?
Misty for me?
No, it was the Wall or something. You know, what was going on back then? No, it was Zeppelin. Something I can't remember.
And did you
now.
annoy
But
the
anyway,
heck out
so
of the guy?
it was my job to sit there and keep calling the radio station until I could finally get the DJ on the line and go, "Hey man, can you play?"
Well, we used to
So they
do
do
the
answer.
10th caller.
Do they?
To win a pair of tickets, to see Herbie
right,
Hancock or
right.
whatever.
Sure.
And the phone would just light up, you know. "Nope, you're not it. Bye."
Stairway to Heaven, that's what it was.
Was it?
Play Stairway to Heaven, right. That's what it was.
Oh, my gosh. So the guy did, or the gal.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. After calling him 10 times and letting it ring and ring and ring and hang up. You have
That's
to keep
funny.
calling back till he answers.
Well, they're playing music. They're
I know,
not just
right?
standing
They
there
told me to
waiting
call.
for you to call. Or, you know, the one thing that, you know, any announcers out there, I bet you can relate, but it was when you got on the mic, after you were finished, and you back announced what you played, and you would get on the mic as you're back, that's when they would call. Now, really?
What do you mean back announcing?
Well,
I
you've
don't
got
know that term.
Okay, well, you play just a 20-minute set of music.
Oh, okay.
So then you just back announce what you played.
Oh, I see.
But the people
right.
call when you're on the air. That's when they call.
Right.
And then you know, then they'll hang up and you're like, "I can take your call now."
Right.
I don't know. It just seems like the
Give me
big
a minute.
shots. The big shots have somebody to answer.
They have
calls.
somebody, right. But it was nice to talk to the DJ too. You know, it's like you actually talk to Eris Hampers or whoever the guy was. He was like a local hero.
Oh, how cute!
So what do you want to do from here? You want to go back into broadcasting and
do.
like, or do you want to more like the management, or do you want to?
No, I want to be on the air. I want it, but I also want to produce and more of the creative part of things.
I see,
definitely,
right.
not the business end of things.
Right.
More of a creative
And actually doing it.
Yeah.
Creating it and then putting it.
Yeah, and Monterey's always been good to me. It really has. But there are no privately owned stations anymore.
Oh, right.
Right?
Right.
So, who knows?
It'll fall in
I'd
place.
start something of my own. But the voice has always been good to me.
So tell me about singing. You did singing? Where did that take you?
Right. Well, it took me to San Francisco.
You said you were in a couple of bands, so you put one together?
Yeah.
Break that down for me a little bit. I think we skipped right over that, didn't we?
I know. Well,
What
I didn't
what
want
were
to
you
be
singing?
too boring. Well, I would want to call it jazz, but my musicians would say, no, it ain't jazz, because they were real purists.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Of course.
Right. It lent itself to jazz.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you couldn't dance to it. That was one of the bigger
right.
complaints.
Right.
It was eclectic. We did a lot of Steely Dan.
Wow. That's huge.
You know, Asia was a big album back
huge.
then. But going back a little bit, I first, stuck that thing up on the music store and got a call right away. But this was a dance band, and they were called the Lucky Dogs. We were called the Lucky Dogs.
Yeah.
And
pop music or kind of jazz poppy type of thing, or
just what was played on the radio.
I see. Yeah.
We were a dance band.
Right.
Yeah. And that was okay. It was fun, except the guys were cruel. I remember the bass player would take the neck of his bass and try to lift my dress in the back while I'm singing. And I'm like the cowardly lion going like this, like, what is that? I feel a draft. Or,
my tail's going up. Wait a minute.
Yeah, or they're just capitalizing on making fun of me while I was on stage. They were tough boys,
throw you off.
For sure. And they liked to drink.
Yeah.
The guy that drove me home, because we were driving from Paso Robles to San Luis Obispo. I hope he wasn't drinking. I don't think he was. I mean, I managed to get home safely.
Sure.
But they were rough dogs. They were.
Really?
So by that time, I was wanting to really I was learning jazz standards, and that's what I wanted to do.
I see.
Torch singer jazz standards type thing. And the more I was listening to jazz, so that's when I put that name up there again on the board.
Yeah.
And a gentleman, you'll still see him on the internet, Steve Schoenfeld. He was the guitarist, and he's worked with Bo Diddley and a few others. I could name some names, but he was the one who called me, and he said, let's put something together, So it wasn't piano, it was guitar, bass, 2 guitars, a lead guitar but he would sing sometimes too. That's why we kind of did the Steely Dan pretty well. But yeah, it wasn't one of those get out there and till 2:00 in the morning dance.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
which thankfully we were quite popular for a while there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those were all things that happened. I think I was in my 20s.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun.
Did you get to sing more jazz
Eventually,
as you went along?
as I went to San Francisco,
Did you? Yeah.
I was invited for one thing. The first gig I had in San Francisco, there was a gentleman by the name of Pony Poindexter. He was a saxophone player. And what was the gentleman? He was a promoter. I have to really go back. These people are no longer here.
Yeah, right.
Howard. Something Howard.
Good memory.
He was a promoter. And I knew him he was an announcer in San Luis Obispo on that radio station. I can't think of his first name.
Yeah.
And he said, when you're in the Bay Area, look me up. And he kind of took me under his wing. So the first couple of nights I was there, Freddie Hubbard was playing at the Keystone Corner.
Wow.
And I got to meet him backstage, and he thought I was something else. He kept saying, oh, you look like Kim Novak. And he just, I don't know, had this little crazy crush on me for about 5 seconds. But he would introduce me to all kinds of musicians. Bobby McFerrin came to the house. This was before he was even, we kind of sat around and listened to music together. So I had a gig at the Great American Music Hall, and it was a benefit for Pony Poindexter, who I believe had a stroke or something.
I see you.
So I have the liner. It's in that. It's got everybody on there. Like, I forgot, Mark Isham. Mark Isham was and still is a famous composer for um, what do you, when you write movies, music for screen.
Yeah.
What is that called?
Screenwriter. I don't know. Yeah, score or something. Yeah. No, I don't know
the guy's name. John Barry. He wrote all that. Anyway, so there's just
music
like a
score. Yeah, I guess
music score.
Say,
Yeah. And so there were just all kinds of musicians on this gig.
Really?
Have you ever been to the Great American Music Hall?
I haven't.
Oh, it's so cute. It's just.
We'll take a picture of that and post it up on, so we can see that. Yeah, so they can see what you're talking
that
about.
That poster?
Yeah.
The writings of the.
Oh yeah.
We'll
just zoom it in a little bit. Anyways.
I think my name is misspelled too.
That's okay. Cool.
Who cares? But that, right there opened me up to a lot of musicians.
Right.
I don't want to name drop, but honestly, they
Please
were just.
do.
But pretty soon I was just thought, well, why don't you just come and gig? Let's just kind of gig together. Just come on over. And it was Herbie Hancock's bassist.
Nice.
And, it was, I don't know, Eddie Henderson on trumpet. And all of these people that were just coming out of the woodwork. And I started to gig a lot. But then we talked about how San Francisco, how you could get caught up in what was going on. So to my folly, I think that was a big part of, I'll leave that to the viewer's imagination. But
music industry gets a little crazy in San Francisco.
I took a little dip in all of these aspirations that I had. But,
sure.
But it was still there.
Part of life.
But part of that time I was studying singing with Judy Davis, who is no longer with us, but she has coined the vocal coach to the stars.
Wow.
Yeah, she had a studio in Oakland. So while I was dating a drummer at the time, I was woodshedding, as we call it, and just studying a lot. And she was a fine coach. She, I don't know for positive, but Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, some of them would, if they needed a brush up, if they were in town, they're playing at the Fairmont or the Venetian Room or at the Fairmont, they would go see Judy just for a little, touch up. Streisand, she says she worked with Streisand on the People album. Streisand says she never took voice lessons. So it's whoever you want to believe.
Right.
I think sometimes if they just wanted a brush up,
Yeah, maybe not so much a lesson.
Yeah, these few notes. I have a cold, and these few notes right here, I just can't get past them without a break.
Yeah, right.
They give them little tricks to
Who
work
does somebody like Tony Bennett go to? To just listen to what I'm doing here and tell me what I'm doing wrong. Everybody in the world's going to be like, oh, you're fantastic. It's got to be that few people that will sit down and say, okay, you were off on this. You're off on this.
Yeah.
Maybe Streisand needed that. She didn't need a full lesson. Okay.
But I can hear Judy. I can hear Judy in some of her.
Can ya?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, resonance is a big thing. It's a big thing with singing. And so that's what they'll do. I'm not going to do some of this stuff right now, but it's just all this, resonance. I can remember hearing James Brolin say, oh, I know she's got a gig coming up because she just hums all the way around the house.
That's funny. Right.
Bringing that resonance forward, right?
But not using the vocal cord as much, so.
Well, just making sure that this is open.
Yeah.
And that the mask is where some of this is coming from.
I see, right.
Frank will tell you that, too. It's all about resonance.
Yeah.
So if you just need a brush up type of thing.
Sure.
So, yeah.
There's been, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times in my life where I've been in a club or in a restaurant and a female jazz singer comes up and just blows me away. It's just amazing. Like, holy cow. It's always like, why is she here? Sometimes you just come across somebody that can just turn that song into theirs,
Yes, and that's
just
the good thing about jazz.
Amazing singers out there. Yeah, I love that music.
You can take that jazz standard and make it your own for sure.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Definitely.
What a great talent.
Well, I met Sarah Vaughan. That was insane.
Yeah,
I was on my knees.
I bet.
Well, Joe Bonner happened to be, when these singers come to town, they say, all right, give me your best bassist, give me your best, piano player in the area, whatever. And that's who they'll work with, And so that was the case of Sarah Vaughan. And so we were at the Great American, and I was his guest, and during the break, he said, would you like to meet Sarah? Sarah, as in the lady that was...
I know, right?
That one? Yeah. And I went back there and met her, and no, I never forget her book of music embossed and her name on it, just all of her charts within, her, what do you want to call them? I can't think of it right now. Arrangements.
All her inside stuff or arrangements. Yeah.
And she was very humble, very sweet. Ella Fitzgerald, too.
Yeah.
Met Ella Fitzgerald.
Did you really?
Oh, I did.
Wow. You've really met the whole line, haven't you?
Well, I met the ones I wanted to meet. Nancy Wilson.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
She was at KJAZ one afternoon.
Really?
And my mom took a picture of us and then can't expose the film.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
It was one of those disposable cameras,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So,
Wilson sisters.
It was a birthday present. The bass player / boyfriend said, would you like to see Ella? She was at the Fairmont. And I'm like, yeah, what? You're kidding. So, like a fool, he was so embarrassed. After the gig, I ran up on stage, and is it Paul Shearing? No. I can't, these names. Oh, somebody's wanting to correct
Little
me.
short guy, Paul?
No, she played Paul Smith.
Oh.
He was her pianist for a long time. Anyway, he's still on stage like, oh my gosh, is this woman all right? I come running up, and I did. I held out my hand, and she hugged me. And
Ella
I had
Fitzgerald?
her. Yeah.
No.
She did.
Oh my God, you just melted into a puddle.
Oh, I was in the car all night.
Oh my God, right.
Just.
I can still smell her.
Yes, because the more she sweat, the more I could smell that perfume on her.
That's funny.
But just a sweetheart, just like you see her, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Just very, very sweet.
Isn't that amazing? I've seen a lot of concerts, and I go to a lot of rock concerts, but I remember went and saw Diana Ross in Detroit. And I couldn't believe I was in the same place as Diana Ross. It was like it's different than Rob Zombie or, Van Halen or whatever. This is an icon. This is like a Motor City,
Yeah. And how
legend.
big was the venue? How big was it?
Oh, it was huge.
Oh.
Yeah, it was huge. And, but it was just, I couldn't believe it. It's just really human. You know what I mean? It's like,
you
must have had that same feeling. Of course, I didn't go run up on stage and hug her or anything, but
I can't believe I did that
either. Shot me.
It was an out-of-body experience for
sure.
Oh,
I bet, right.
I mean, all the way home, the bass player was like, I can't believe you did that.
I
cannot believe you did that. He was just like, there were a lot of things I did that, But when you're in your 20s, you
can do throw
live
me out
for today.
Right.
There's no tomorrow, and that's how I think we all feel until we actually fulfill this whole frontal cortex.
Sure.
I don't know.
You'll have a lot more times in your life where you go, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that?
Oh, that's true. But woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, but still. Dang it. I was right there. I should have. Oh, dang it.
So met Dionne Warwick, too.
Have mercy.
Yeah. And I think she was in Fresno. Yeah. She was singing at some event, and I was part of the catering company. So there was nothing
it wasn't singing related,
professional about it, or artistic. But
add her to the list. People I met.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the list goes on and on. It's not about who you met, but how much you learn from somebody.
There you go.
Yeah. Like I take a lot from each one. Sarah, Ella, Dion, who are a couple other ones? Betty Carter, she was a hoot. Um,
I
these
don't
are
know that one. Who's she?
she was a more bebop singer.
I see.
Hmm.
Oh, my dad would have loved that.
Yeah.
Oof.
Boy, she was really. I could just go on and on about this
Yeah,
stuff,
right,
you know.
right.
But you have to ask the questions.
I don't know where you've been. I'm trying to get to where you were in jazz, and man, we've covered some great stuff.
Yeah, there's certainly some antics that certainly took place in some of these interesting people for sure, and so talented, you know. Just you get to know them personally. I'm not crying; it's allergies.
It's allergy season here.
Yeah, but they would get on their acts, and it was like walking and breathing to them.
Yeah.
So ingenious, these people. They're
Yeah.
just one of a kind for sure, you know.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
Did I meet Dizzy? I think I met him, but he was like, "Oh, there's Dizzy." And he was walking by. It was really dark. that was as close to it.
I saw him
But
live.
Max Roach, yeah. I mean, these were the guys that paved the way. You know, they
Yeah.
really did. Amazing.
So you just met him in all different places.
Well, if they were gigging, you
They
know,
were
and
gigging
I
and
was
you were
with
there,
a
and-
musician who got us in or whatever,
Right,
I
right.
became kind of a regular at the Keystone Corner.
I see,
I don't
right.
even know if that's still around anymore. It was the jazz club.
It was
in
the
San
jazz
Francisco.
club. Okay, yeah.
And then
no wonder.
there was Yoshi's in the 90s. I don't know if that's still there. Yoshi's was in Oakland.
Mm,
All named jazz acts.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Great place. You could go have dinner, go back down to the lounge area and hear always recording artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just all the people
Yeah.
of the day and
Mm-hmm.
oh, great.
Amazing. Amazing.
Great time to be in San Francisco. You know,
I think so.
I go down and, I go to a little record store down by Haight and Ashbury and think of what this must have been at one time.
Do they still have Capitol Records? No.
I don't know. Maybe there is. There's a small one down that I go to.
Oh, that's where it came from. I mean,
Was it?
They had Capitol Records.
Yeah. I think I have
Franchise,
been to Capitol
but-
Records
Yeah.
over there. But
I got, I remember my girlfriend and I were living out in the avenues where you never saw the sun. It was the Richmond and then Sunset, a misnomer.
right.
No sun whatsoever for days. And we took a bus down to North Beach and hit Capitol Records. And I bought my Off the Wall, which was Michael Jackson
Sure.
when he first, kind of came back out as a solo artist, and we were all just, that was the talk.
Sure was, wasn't it?
Even the jazz musicians were like, hey, this
Wow.
is produced by Quincy Jones. Check it out,
Was it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah.
Of course
Well, I
it
think
was.
that's some of his better music than
Yeah.
any of the other,
Sure.
he kind of went more pop after that. But yeah, Quincy produced and arranged all those songs on that album.
Right.
Off
I was
the
a
Wall.
teenage boy at that time. I wasn't
Yeah.
allowed to like Michael Jackson,
Oh,
I appreciated it later, but it's like, yeah, no.
oh,
We were more into hard rock.
oh,
But, we did appreciate the Michael Jackson time and all that,
yeah.
My aunt had a workout studio and they were always playing Michael Jackson in there to their dance stuff and all that,
For sure, for sure.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's some of his best material.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Quincy Jones.
Oh, yeah.
What a talent.
Yeah, he was in there with
Honestly.
Diana Ross and everybody else. He was friends with all those people, so sure. Yeah, it must have been huge. Was that part of Motown? Not really. Jackson's? It was a little before my time.
It was Motown.
Was it Motown?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
What's the guy's name? Gary
Artie
Gordon.
Yeah.
Gordon. What's his name?
Barry Gordy.
very chordy.
Yeah, right.
It had some hodgepodge.
Somewhere in there, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't bring it to. So what do you want to do next? That's the name of the program.
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next?
You got all this.
Myralee.
You've got all this history.
Well,
what are you going to do next?
As long as I can hear and I can speak,
right.
I think it's going to be some kind of broadcasting behind the mic.
Sure.
Something behind the mic.
Yeah.
I still have my first mic I bought. It's in
Really?
my closet. Yeah.
Wow.
An SM57.
Wow.
So probably could still use it today.
Bring it in. We'll give it that old-fashioned feel.
And it has a windscreen on it, too.
Does it really? Like these probably should.
I could slip it on and off. But, yeah, Monterey has always been good to me.
Yeah.
There's just something about Monterey. And as a kid, I never was really enthralled with it because I know it was like Fisherman's Wharf and you do all the things that the people from the valley go and do.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't meeting the people and knowing just how eco-responsible they are. And like I said, just going to the fair one day, I run into Mark Carbonaro and he says, "Oh, you worked in radio, did you? Okay. Well, how would you like to be a board op? Do you know what a board op is?" Well, think about the most boring,
right.
operative thing you could possibly do. Hence the
That's
word
it.
board op. No, I mean, now that radio stations are satellite,
Sure. They're
you
owned by
always
one
get
big
this-
conglomerate somewhere, and they own 1 million of them or something.
yeah. Well, KOCN was kind of one of the first, still privately owned. As a matter of fact, as I digress, during the Loma Prieta earthquake, we were without power a lot longer than the Bay or the city because Moss Landing was shut off. And so we were without anything for 2 weeks. It was pretty intense.
Right.
And KOCN was one of the few in this area that had a battery generated, backup.
Right.
So we were rip and read and just, you know that term?
No.
Rip and read?
No.
Oh, I bet some engineers in here would know that term. Associated Press. It goes off. Rip it and read it.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah, that's where that term comes from. So
It's funny. We were talking before that Wade's dad's been in this since the late 40s. He showed me his microphone, and it's something about the broadcaster. This was my microphone, and that was a neat thing. Flashbacks of his dad doing that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm hoping he's going to talk more about that.
Yeah.
But those were shows. They were on the air.
Right.
Leave it up to your imagination.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah, we talked a lot about, all the sound that he had to do, and they had to do different sound effects, and it was really interesting because you see it on TV in the black and whites, but to actually talk to a dad and his dad, and he was making thunder and, stuff like that. It's amazing stuff.
Closing the
But
door.
they don't do that stuff anymore.
It was so realistic that some people thought, that we were being invaded
Remember
from
that?
outer space.
I remember hearing about that.
Oh, that's how realistic it was.
Right.
So
what would you do nowadays? Could you do like a 1 hour pre-recorded jazz show and just turn it out once every Monday?
You mean singing?
No, just a radio show. Maybe you could sing us in and out to different songs if you wanted to. But
if I had the library for it.
Do you have a library? Do you have the vinyl for it?
No, I
probably don't even need it anymore.
I sold them for diapers.
That's funny.
A lot of things.
That's funny.
Yeah, I had to get rid of some things. And when you've moved enough, you've the books, and unless you're a collector.
Sure.
But those are the two things I wasn't going to move around anymore.
Yeah, right.
But if I had a library, definitely that would be. Oh, would that be fun?
Sure. Well, how do we get you a library? I mean, you're the one to do this, right? You've got all these
I'll have to think about
history
this.
and connections, and we got to bring all that, and how's it going to work today,
Yeah.
2025?
Yeah.
And make money too, I mean, it's got to be monetized.
And who is this Delilah gal?
Yeah, I never heard of her.
You haven't?
No, of course.
I think she's on nights, but again, it's produced.
That's all over the world, though, isn't it?
Maybe.
That's just a big, massive thing. I'm
This-
talking about a Monterey thing.
Definitely. Definitely go local for sure.
Start from there, and then it'll grow from there.
Well, I like this idea for sure. I really do.
Right. You could be in Oklahoma listening to the Monterey Jazz Hour. You'd be like, dang, Monterey must be the place to go for jazz.
Well,
put you on the map.
Isn't KRML still happening? KRML?
Maybe.
I'm not sure what's
They
going on with
they're
that
one
station.
of the last ones.
Yeah.
Everybody else they gotten rid of all their DJs, and it's all gone robot.
Yeah, I haven't been in tune with that too much. I know that Clint Eastwood's, one of his wives, took over. Or maybe she was a silent partner in something. Maybe I'm completely mistaken. But I don't think it has a big reach. I mean, as far as what do you want to call it? Transmission.
Something, yeah.
So, but I'd be curious to know.
I'm sure Delilah started in her basement too. Now she's worldwide.
Who knows? There's another gal, starts with a T. And she does more of like jazz, Brazilian jazz. There's a station out of LA. I think that's where she got her start.
Right.
But I don't know. Again,
Brazilian
it's who
jazz.
you know, where you are, who
Right.
you've met, and serendipitous. You never know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I was first, came in here and saw the studio, I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. And I was really, really amazed. And so, yeah, it feels like home.
Yeah.
Definitely feels like home.
Doesn't cost that much to set up a recording studio anymore, I do
That's what
this
I
more
understand.
because I don't speak very well, and I don't talk to people very well. So it's like, how do I get over this? Okay, best thing to do is just start a talk show and just start talking to people. If you don't get better at it that way, I kind of did it the opposite of what you're doing. You want to get back into it because you miss it.
Oh, we need to get him ripping reading then, because like
Rip and read.
Slobodan Milosevic, I remember when all that was going on, and I'm trying to say this man's
I do that
do
too.
your best. And, you make a mistake and somebody's going to call you on it for sure.
Sure.
That's when they call, for
Right.
sure. His name is not pronounced that way.
Right. Well, now you're trying to get clicks and people to comment, so you do things wrong on purpose, so people go, "Oh, you did that wrong."
Oh,
Right?
flattered.
So, yeah, you're trying to...
my listeners, one of my listeners.
Right.
God.
Leave a comment down below.
Singing too, but singing, this is a muscle.
Yeah,
And like any muscle, you've got to keep at it and work at it.
sure.
And so I could give myself every excuse in the world, but I think for me, I need a studio to
Sure.
really do that. I'm living in a place where the front sidewalk is
Yeah.
right there, and maybe I am still a bit shy about that. I
Sure.
certainly would want to make sure that no neighbors are, like, "Ugh, that's a little flat." But once in a while, I will put Streisand on, and I'll sing
Sure.
over her.
Sure.
And so they
that's a
can't
scary one
complain
to sing
about
over.
that. But yeah, it takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of rehearsal.
Yeah.
It's like asking a ball player to go back out there after he's been retired for 20
Right,
years or
right, right.
something like that. It's a mental thing. It's a physical thing. And
Well, you're surrounded by musicians and recording people, and we'll find whatever you need. Everything what you need, we can find it. We'll put it together. You just, whenever you're ready. But, they say in computers, it's just like, don't sit around and plan. If you're going to do something, just do it. Put it out. Even if it's terrible, just keep getting better. Just put it out.
yeah. Well, no,
Whenever you're ready.
You can't give up, and you've got to have that thirst and drive,
Yeah.
which was what I had in my 20s
Yeah,
and
right,
30s,
right.
right? But you also, connections, and talent. You just have to have that talent.
Right.
That's why I figure at my age, which I'm not going to divulge, it seems like such a waste that you should be doing something for others, definitely being of service to others.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it? What's it going to be? If you've got the talent, what's it going to be?
Right.
So a little foreboding, but exciting at the same time.
Sure.
So you must be feeling that way too, because I think your voice is incredible.
Thank you.
Should be. It's very articulate.
Daddy always said I had a face for radio.
Face for radio, definitely. I was introduced on more than one appearances where I was the MC or whatever at the concert.
Sure.
And this Ron Sorgel, that was his name, Ron Sorgel. Ron, if you're out there, he was the program director at KXDC, which was in Monterey. And he would introduce me as Dollface.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My name is Myra. But that was the deal. When Les McCann came into town, he introduced me as Dollface. It was a little sexist at the time, but
you're on
I would
radio,
take it now.
So, right,
If someone called me that now, I'd say, yeah, okay, I'll take it.
That's me.
But cool. I mean, we are working. It's got to be something that is fulfilling, but also as a service to others.
Right.
Still need to work. I'm kind of a late bloomer in figuring out that steady gig and what I did as a speech therapist assistant. That was kind of the growing up time. Once you have children, you realize, it's time to grow up yourself.
Well, you got to pay some bills.
Mm-hmm.
Got to buy some diapers, like you said.
That's right.
That's the way it goes.
Get rid of some things.
How many did you have?
I just have one.
Just one?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Try 4.
Fine young man. I know, right? Well, I think you and I are about 10 years apart.
I was born in 66, so
yeah.
I'll let you.
I'm younger than he is. No.
Way.
Oh, goodness.
That's all right. How did your singing, I guess maybe I'll back that up. How did you get into the speech therapy? Was it, it's all kind of voice related.
Right.
Did the singing have anything to do with it, or it seems like it has a little bit of connection there? No.
Well, again, wanting to reread that book, What Color's Your Parachute, after, I think when my kid was still small, I was going to work in radio. That didn't work out.
Yeah.
So, I worked for Aetna U.S. Healthcare, taking 100 phone calls a day, and they weren't calling to say, things are great. So I would get in my car, cry, and pick up my 2-year-old.
Just negative energy all day long.
Yeah, so I went back to school. And thought about teaching, but then was thumbing through the books and found out that there was a shortage of speech pathologists.
Oh, okay.
And at the time, you only needed a bachelor's degree, but then they upped the ante and you needed to have a master's and your C's, which was clinical competence, and all of these tests that you had to take.
Yeah.
So they found out that a lot of these people were not quite qualified, or they would grandfather them in, and they were close to retiring anyway. So speech pathology, the science of it has really broadened. People think, it's, Henry Higgins and allocution. No, that's just one tip of the iceberg. Even articulation is one tip of the iceberg. What we're dealing with is language, learning differences, I call them, rather than learning disabilities, which sometimes will coincide with language disorders.
Right.
And also fluency. Everybody has somebody that they know who has bumpy speech.
Sure.
So
that
one's a hard one.
I've got to
tackle that one.
I've got one grandson that's on the spectrum, and he was not able to talk for a long time. And they brought in a speech therapist. I don't know if that's the same as a pathologist.
Yeah.
But what a night and day difference. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. Now he's asking questions. He still gets overloaded on some things.
Yeah.
But he can articulated what he's thinking now. You know, it's like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. One of
They
the
were at
main
the-
goals is
yeah.
to have a 2 to 3 turn-taking conversation
I see.
so that we can at least have that child communicate what their needs
Okay,
are or
right.
why they're upset
Yeah.
or, those kind of things,
Yeah.
life skills type. Yeah.
And
So,
parents don't really even have those basics. They don't know where to start. It's like, I don't know what to do. And as soon as the therapist comes in, boom, they're just making, changes left and right,
yeah,
It's like,
well,
wow,
it's a
good for them.
behavioral science.
Yeah, I see.
Otherwise, they would call us teachers. No, we're not teachers. We're
Right.
therapists. And it stems from B.F. Skinner and all the way up behavioral science. And I was very, very interested in it. So, but undergrad was 77 units, just undergrad. It's kind of pre-med. You have to
Truly,
know.
right.
You have to know everything except the arms and the legs, the whole respiratory system, the brain,
Yeah.
the muscles, the bone. Well, yeah, the bones. Yeah,
A little bit.
everything
How
that
they
has to
attach
do
the
with,
muscles.
with the
Sure.
respiratory system. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I'm an assistant. That means that I'm an undergrad,
Right.
and then I kind of took 2 steps back and went to a program for SLPAs. That's the acronym, Speech Language Pathology Assistant. And so that was interesting. Once you got a college degree, then you went back, and technically, I think they only need an AA degree, but I don't know of anybody who's hiring now without the bachelor's degree.
I see, right.
Again, the field has opened up so much. I mean, as far as your learning base and on the things that you must know, it's not about getting a kid to say an L or an R or let's fix that one.
Right.
It's a lot more than that.
Sure.
And behavioral wise, that we will be working along with ABA, which is applied behavioral analysis. So you may be working, if it depends on the severity of the situation. But even a child with ADD or ADHD I had a couple of kids diagnosed with ADHD, and they're just so high strung that, again, it's that 2 to 3 turn taking, having a perspective taking, empathy. These are things that aren't necessarily ingrained in the human psyche. You have to kind of bring it out. And if a child's, hyperactivity, he or she is not interested in what you're having to say. It's all about me.
Right.
Type of
Yeah.
thing. So that might be where the therapy goes on that one. you
Yeah.
know.
Interesting to hear you say pathology, where it's more of a brain thing, isn't it? Is that what pathology
anything
means?
pathos means it's not working.
Oh, is that what that means?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe so. Anybody got a dictionary?
Yeah, I don't know. I think pathology, I'm thinking,
Well, when you say pathological,
yeah, right.
you're not.
It's like you can't control it, but it's through your brain. So I don't know.
It's not working right.
Is that what it means? Okay, that makes sense.
Well, that's a layman
Sure.
definition, but
Yeah.
anything pathos,
Right.
it's just not working.
Right.
So it's
I'm thinking
a
of a
disorder.
coroner or something, but I guess that's not working either, right?
You could be a forensic pathologist.
Maybe that's what's stuck
That's
in
where
my head.
you
A forensic
mostly hear it.
pathologist. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they're looking at what happened.
How come it's not working?
Yeah, it's not working here for these people.
Interesting. That's great. Wow.
Yeah, so that's the technical term. And
Yeah.
again, it's not just speech. Kids might say, well, there's my speech teacher. Okay, speech teacher, that works for me.
Sure.
Just don't call me hey lady.
Yeah, right. My special ed lady.
And I am Miss Eccles because I earned that.
That's
A
right.
lot of speech pathologists will, just call me Miss Kathy or Miss Debbie. No, my relatives come from the South.
Right.
If I hear Miss Myra or Miss myralee, I know I'm in trouble.
Yeah, right.
That one the hair on my back just goes up. So it was Miss Eccles.
Right. It's funny. I remember some of the kids' friends would call me Steve. and my steam would come out of my ears. It's like, you don't call me Steve. Maybe I'm from a generation, but I'm Mr. Blasen to you.
That's right.
You know? And that doesn't really fly anymore nowadays. Maybe I was the last generation, but that steams me. Some 10-year-old or 15-year-old calling me Steve. That's not
agree.
acceptable.
I don't know what that
I've earned this. Thank you, like you said, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know.
Show some respect.
It's just something. And again, you know, from the South or relatives from the South. And when I heard that Miss Myra, I was in trouble. You know, it was going to be a stern talking to.
Yeah.
For sure.
I probably called you Miss Myra because that's what I call people. Miss this or Miss that or.
That's fine.
You okay?
That's not a big deal. If a grown-up wants to call me that, that's fine.
That's right. So I got a frog in my throat.
Uh-oh.
Edit.
And keep that editing because I don't know where we're going. Is this an hour?
Oh, we go as long as we want. Sometimes they go half an hour. Sometimes they go 2 hours.
And now it's time for everybody to cough?
Yeah, right.
I figured, well, you already did it, so
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been holding that in for a while.
I think I don't know. My life is not that exciting. I can't think of anything else to talk about.
Well, we talked about the jazz thing. I think that's what you in the radio career that you're about to have. And did have.
I just didn't think it was going to go by so fast.
So, well, I think, we were talking about you're in something that you like, but you don't want to do it too much longer. Maybe you want to move on to something else. So,
well, no, I've kind of made. I might burn my bridges. You never know who's watching.
Well, we'll edit it out.
Yeah.
We're still in edit.
I just physically, I broke my back in 2020 and have gained some weight. It just is harder when you're working with kids on the spectrum. You have one.
Yeah.
And the redirecting.
Let's start again. You ready? Are we already running?
Yeah.
So what did you say? You broke your back? When did that happen?
Oh, that's not fun. Oh, that was in 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's just I had fallen at the district office once 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah, right.
Landed on my knee. And when I was just kind of laying there, everybody's, are you okay? Are you okay? I should have said no.
Right.
Because it was this ricochet nerve thing that just went up my left side. That's when we were talking about it. But from that point, there was compression that had happened as a result of that.
Right.
And I was coming out of a really steamy. It was winter coming into spring, and I was in an old Victorian over on Lane Street. And it was very, very cold place. Got in the hot shower, came out into the cold and just went down.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Just went out. So that's how I broke it.
I think that was more of what you were talking about. Maybe you might want to change professions a little bit because it's just getting a little harder to deal with the young kids. And like you said, I'm trying to remember some of the conversations we had, but yeah.
Yeah, running to go get them.
Yeah, right.
Coming back, making sure you're on a tight schedule.
Sure.
Very tight.
Yeah.
And again, it who's to say? I've talked with some of the best professionals in this area who've been doing this for 45 years, and they've asked me, just hypothetically, why is it that the caseload is more and more kids on the spectrum? There is no answer to that.
Oh, there's some answers.
We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But from a science being of that practice, I wouldn't say anything about why and how prevalent it is. But nonetheless, it does seem to be more and more of your caseload. It's no longer just the L's and the R's. R's are tough. If you've already, there are certain norms that the mucky mucks have made for this kid should have acquired this sound by this time.
Right.
And the latest one, they keep switching, but it's out of Nebraska or something. So it's, I don't know, all these studies that they've done. But I contend on some of these that they should be lower, because if it's a kid who's in second grade and he's distorted his R's all that time, that now has become a habit.
Right.
You're going to have to break that old
Really?
habit.
Yeah, I see.
So
Right.
it's not as easy.
Where's
as
that age usually? Where it's harder
I'm going to get into trouble now.
Well, by the time they're 5 or 6, if they're not saying their words right, that's the time to catch them.
It depends on the sound.
Oh, I
these
see. Okay.
These sounds are acquired at different times. Right.
Okay.
So,
that makes sense, yeah. Because they're saying different things at different ages and articulating.
Well, we all acquire our sounds. We're not coming out, it's a gradual thing that happens by listening and by trying to do it expressively yourself.
Right.
So the kiddo starts with 1 or 2 words. And typically, if you think about it, 1 word, 1 year. By 2 years of age, I remember my son, Keegan, a 2.5.
Right.
He was so proud of himself. And that's getting right along in that area.
Yeah.
So when they can speak telegraphically right around 2-ish years of age, my son had his R's from the beginning.
Yeah.
But he didn't have L, so it was Kayam, Toet. And we thought it was cute, like most parents do.
Right.
But here comes Grandma. She's like doing this even before. I'm like, whoa, look at you.
Yeah.
And they hear it. But if by the time they're 7 or 8 and they're, I yike you, no, we need some, some speech therapy there.
Yeah.
But again, that's such a habit at that point.
I was talking to one of my sons, and his son was having problems with different words. And I was asking him, have you maybe had him check to see if he's on the spectrum? I don't know, because I've had another one. And he said the problem is he learned to speak during the pandemic, and he couldn't see any of our faces as we were trying to form the words, and now he doesn't know how to move his mouth right. It's like, I never thought about that. They need to see your mouth move to see exactly how you're making that sound.
The resonance
as well. Totally I gapped on that one. It's like, that makes total sense.
Yeah, you just said something very profound.
Hearing.
Not only
they need to see you do it, right?
Not only were we behind in literacy, but also in just expressive language. And after the pandemic, I had a kiddo that hid behind his mask. He still wanted to wear the mask.
I wondered about that.
And his speech was very immature. Just in a nutshell, it was immature. And I'm wondering if maybe just from his shyness and wanting to stay behind the mask. But when he was with me, and I would do, not quite tongue twisters, but I would just tackle all these sounds in one answer question, and we'd take it by bits, kind of phrase talking. But he did really well, surprisingly. So I think you said something very true there.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
Sure.
A lot of things happen to our babies because of this.
That's crossed my mind before when I see somebody, even an adult, walking down the road nowadays with a mask on outside. It's like, are they virtue signaling, or are they actually hiding behind that mask? It may be something they just got used to. They like hiding.
We have to be
sure. No, I
perspective.
Go ahead,
immunocompromised. They could be.
They could be in. Yeah, sure.
But they are outside.
But they're outside. They're in their car by themselves with the windows up with the mask on. It's like,
that was hard.
Are you used to that barrier, kind of nice, covering your face up?
when you're in your car with the mask on, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, right? It's like, that's virtue signaling, or you're scared of your air conditioner or something.
You don't want to get bugs in your mouth or whatever, right?
I don't know what
bugs
to think
in your
about
teeth.
That, but anyways, that was I was wondering about that. If it's a hiding.
That's a very, very good point that you made, and it was very knowing that your son kind of figured that one out for him.
Right.
How is he doing now? Is his speech still?
A lot better.
Yeah.
A lot better. Yeah.
Sure. You have to see placement,
Exactly.
production, manner,
Right.
production, placement, resonance,
Right.
all of
Right.
it.
I thought of that when you were saying Grandma came over and was showing him. Do this, right? Well, if you don't see it, then they don't know, right? That's what made me think of that. It's like,
Well,
oh, yeah.
you could, for him, they get it somehow. It's like toilet training. I don't know.
Something.
I got kind of worried there for a little bit, but I had a couple of wise old women say, I've never met a man yet who isn't toilet trained. Now, the word is yet.
Yeah, right.
Because Keegan was a little late on that, but
Sure.
there were no other men in the house, and so whatever, but it just happens.
Yeah.
And
I had
if
one.
you don't have language in the home, if you're not speaking,
Yeah.
we talked about that too. There's a lot of reason why we don't like to use the word delay, because that makes it look like, oh, well, we can fix it,
Yeah.
For whatever reason, there is a language disorder. There's a classic study of the gal, I think I mentioned that, who was, this was in the 70s, where speech pathology was still it was a new kind of thing.
Good.
We're still working on mostly articulation and that sort of thing. Well, it's a classic study of this young girl was left in a dark room, tethered to a potty chair. Her parents never engaged and talked with her. There was no dyad at all. They would come in and feed her.
Wow.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Right.
Don't remember the name of the study. Don't remember the name of the young lady. But they got her, I believe, at the age of 7.
Oh, she was that little.
And so you want to talk about speech and language delayed.
That's a wild animal.
And they could get her up to speed for just, she would always be delayed.
Sure.
The power in that is that our brain, and just like animals who learn from their parents, it's a sponge, and whatever they hear all the time is what's going in there, and that's what's getting them to talk. My son's first receptive language was "find mommy's glasses. I can't find my glasses," and he would totter over.
That's funny.
But so if you're not in a rich language environment or having those talks with your baby, just
Right.
talking and reading, I would prop him up with my knees and just read
Yeah.
to him.
Yeah.
And he's just looking like a peanut full of, just jelly. He didn't even
Sure.
have a neck yet. And you can't believe it, but they are absorbing all
Sure.
of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what happens. So I don't know what's going on with her now. I'm sure she's an adult now. I'd be curious. Maybe I should Google that
Google
and
her
find
up
out.
and see what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
But
that is
she
like a
never
feral
got-
animal.
Right.
Basically, she didn't know any kind of
Grunts.
social skills or anything, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just horrible.
That's crazy.
Think about it.
Somebody could live like that.
Well,
or treat
again, I
another
want to
human
know
like
how
that,
much
I guess.
language she did acquire.
Yeah. Just through the heating vents, you mean? Or
Well, they got her caught up, but again, there's just so much. Again, I'm not a neurologist.
right. Yeah.
But the executive thinking and all of the empathy and all
Oh,
of these
yes,
things are
right.
weeded into the brain
Right.
with exposure and experiences.
Hmm.
And if you're not given those, you're right.
Right.
Just a blank slate for sure.
There's got to be a little window that you got to get that in too.
That's true.
So once you're 7, 8, you can't go back and reteach those first 4 years.
That's why she's delayed still.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, that makes
Exposure and
sense.
experiences for sure.
Right. So
Like I think about growing up on my uncle's dairy farm, just the things that the kids, especially on the coast, they've never a corn stalk. What is that? Or
right.
they'll say, well, where does where does pork come from? Well, it comes from the store.
Right.
You know, these are answers that you're going to get. And, or some of them have never even been to the beach. And that just kills me because they're right here. So
I used to work on people in Salinas that have never been to the ocean. I was like, how's that possible?
yeah,
It's right there. It's like, well, parents weren't really into it, just didn't know how to swim, so we just never really went out there. It's like, but it's 10 minutes.
yeah.
Didn't just
Well, maybe
drive
they
out
don't
there to
have a
see the
car.
ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? But it's just unfathomable to me, you know. But yeah, that's true. If you're just
Exposure
not
and
raised that way,
experiences.
yeah, exactly. Exposure and experiences. All right. What a great time we had today. We covered so many subjects.
I know.
What are we missing? I always get to the end and like, oh, by the way, there's something.
Well, the rest of it is X-rated. So
Is it? So we'll put that on
or
another
of ill
podcast.
repute.
Right.
I just can't go back. It shuns me to even experience those things. Yeah, and some of those were experienced with some of those names I dropped a little
Righteous.
earlier. Yeah.
Right on.
So that's it for me, I
That's
think.
great. Well, thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you,
What a
Steve.
blast we had.
Well, I doubt if this is going to be the last time I see you.
Nope. I might do another podcast and get your music show going. Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
Use this, Bob.
Yeah, that's the way my doctor wanted me to do it the other day. I'm like, okay, whatever.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for checking in. Talk to you real soon. Love you guys.